I'm in the US-Canadian border. I'm in Detroit right now. Over there is the Canadian border. This is the Ambassador Bridge. This is a suspension bridge that's about 93 years old. The difference between a suspension bridge and the new bridge over here, which is the Gordie Howe Bridge. The suspension bridge, you can see that we have the main cables coming off of the top of the pillars, and then vertical runs that connect the car deck. Where over here you have the cables come down, and the cables directly connect the car deck into the pillar. That's the difference between a cable stay bridge and a suspension bridge. A suspension bridge is commonly used in the United States, where a bridge like this is commonly used in Europe and Asia. The cable stay bridge is a more affordable option than a suspension bridge in spans of this type of distance. I think that the Gordie Howe Bridge, the total length of it is about 1.5 miles long, and the cost of it was $6.4 billion that was paid for by the Canadian government. The owner of this bridge is a privately owned bridge owned by a billionaire, and that billionaire tried to stop the construction of the Gordie Howe Bridge, and that was part of the reasoning why the state of Michigan didn't fund the new bridge. And that's part of the controversy that's going on right now, is that the Canadian government built this bridge using their own funds, and there are a few things that people are talking about with the construction materials that were used on the bridge, because it was funded by the Canadian government. Based on the research that I've seen, the amount of steel and concrete in terms of what was used by the Canadian government versus the US government was that the amount of steel and concrete was 75% Canadian and then 25% US. You know, you'd think it would be 50-50. I think a lot of people maybe think that way, but the Canadians controlled the amount of the money, so they paid for it all. So the way that they handled it was basically under their control. The amount of goods that are transferred between Detroit and Canada amounts for about 25% of the total trade between the two countries. So it's an important link between the two countries. There are three ways to get goods across. One of them is the Ambassador Bridge. The second one is the new Gordie Howe Bridge, and then there's an underground tunnel. But the Ambassador Bridge kind of has a monopoly on the trucking, because I don't believe that you can get trucking through the tunnel. So there's about nearly almost $1 billion of goods that are transferred between the two countries a day. Particularly auto parts and the logistics and the supply chain are critical for these big industries in Detroit to run. If one of the supply chains is ever stopped, it could greatly affect the industry. A while back, you might remember that the trucks came across here and stopped any kind of transfer of goods due to a union protest. The other part that is important to the rationale behind the development of this bridge versus the development of this bridge is that the Ambassador Bridge, not only is it nearing the end of its life, but on the Canadian side, it doesn't connect into any major roadways. So when you land in Canada, you have to ride through all of Windsor, like residential areas, where the new Gordie Howe Bridge will connect directly to the main highways in Canada and in the US, thereby increasing the amount of traffic flow that's able to go through there. This new bridge, which is set to open possibly this month, has 6 lanes of traffic. This has 4 lanes of traffic, and part of that $6.4 billion budget was the Homeland Security. The development of the Homeland Security on the US side was paid for by the Canadian government, and all of the land that was acquired to build the bridge was paid for by the Canadian government. And the deal that they worked out was that the bridge is going to be owned by the state of Michigan and also the Canadian government, and the cost of the bridge, which was covered by the Canadian government, $6.4 billion, will be paid by tolls. So all the tolls that will cross this bridge will go directly to the Canadian government until they refund their cost of the bridge construction, and then they will share the tolls. You know, the future of the Ambassador Bridge is in question. I suppose that there's no reason for it not to stay open, but the amount of revenue that this bridge will have will be significantly less when the Gordie Howe Bridge opens. One of the interesting things about the design of this, you know, I think it kind of, the cable stay bridge also has a better architectural feel than this typical steel suspension bridge. But the main pillars are meant to look like hockey sticks, and that's part of the architecture and design and the name of the bridge, which is the Gordie Howe Bridge, which is a Canadian hockey player that played for the Detroit Red Wings for nearly 20 years. So that's a little background on the bridges of Detroit. And now we're going to go to Lafayette and American Coney Island and figure out which is the best hot dog. So we're going to go to Lafayette. Let's go to the American first though. See. This one is the regular hot dog. Chili dog. Chili dog. What? Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, have a seat. Anywhere you like.
I'm not going to be hungry.
Later.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. But I did it so quick. Do you want some in it? Very good.
Well, we got to see the difference in them, so. So I just tried the American versus the Lafayette. They are really identical hot dogs. I would say that the American, the inside of the place was a lot more interesting than the Lafayette. I don't know, I just think that the The American has a better hot dog and better chili sauce. Lafayette had a better bun because I think they toasted it. But I'm gonna go with the American. That's my review.